Welcome, pilgrims. Today we're going to talk about the parable of the Good Samaritan. And something has always bothered me about this parable. Why did Jesus make the Good Samaritan a hero? What is a parable? A parable is a metaphor or simile that shows something in everyday life from which you can draw comparisons. In other words, it's a reality show and you are there. It is vivid, it is fascinating, it's attention-getting, and often a little odd. In order to better understand a parable, you oftentimes have to go at what occurred just before Jesus had the need to speak in a parable. In this situation, you have to look at Luke chapter 9, when Jesus invited John, James, and Peter to go up to the top of Mount Tabor, where they had a sneak preview of God's glory. If you look at that icon, you'll see it was such an awesome sight that they couldn't even bear to look at it. It was that wonderful. As they were leaving Mount Tabor and they were joining up with their other homies, other group members, one of the guys was complaining, one of the disciples was complaining that, hey, we have some copycats that are invoking your name as they're casting out demons. And the disciples wanted to know, is that kosher? Is that legitimate? Can they do that? And what did Jesus say? He said, do not forbid, for he who is not against us is on our side. In other words, he wasn't making favorites, choosing favorites. He wasn't trying to create cliques within his following. So they're all heading back down to Jerusalem. And he has a big group with him. So he has his advance party to go ahead and canvass some of the villages to see, is anyone interested in housing them? Can they use a barn? Can they use their pasture? And they visited the Samaritan village, and nobody would offer them any help. They were inhospitable. So, disciples came back to Jesus and said, hey, no luck here. Do you want us to maybe send down some fire from heaven, and get their attention, because they're not being nice? And what did Jesus say to them? You do not know what manner of spirit you are, for the Son of Man did not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. So what did they do? They kept on going. They found some other village. And lo and behold, at that point, when they paused and stopped for a little while, Jesus picked 70 of his followers, his disciples, and sent them out and canvassed other nearby villages. He sent them out 2 by 2, the Great Commission. While he was hanging out, in whatever village he stopped in, they came back and reported, wow, we had great luck. We were well received. We did healings. We increased our following. And Jesus said to them, I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven. So he was feeling good. And he gave them authority over evil. Now, at this point, enters this lawyer, this certain lawyer. Now, is he older? Is he younger? Was he part of the 70 that were sent out? Or is he maybe one of the curiosity seekers that was just following? We don't know. But let's put ourselves in his place. We are all seekers of knowledge. And what did this lawyer ask Jesus? He said, Rabbi, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? And what did Jesus say? He didn't answer the question directly. He answered the question with a question, which is the Socratic Method. He asks, what does the law say? And what do you think it means? Now, this lawyer was, a smart guy. And he says, God says, love God with all your heart, soul, and strength, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus says, bingo. No, he didn't exactly say that. He said, do so and you will live. And that could have been the end of the story, but it wasn't. You see, like most human beings, we're looking for a little bit more. He wanted a little more self-justification. So this lawyer says, yeah, but Jesus, who's my neighbor? That's when Jesus responds in a parable. Now keep in mind, what major things happened? Number one, Jesus says it's okay for people that aren't part of my core group to use my name to do good things. He was also turned down by a bunch of Samaritans. And third, he encouraged his neighbors. He encouraged his disciples to go out to strangers. So, what made this Samaritan a hero? That's where these shoes come into play. Look at these shoes. They're all different types. The first is kind of dressy. They look kind of pretty. I'm sure they were kind of expensive when I bought them. These are very functional. They're strong. They offer good support to your ankle. And if you're out shoveling snow, they're nice and warm. These look a bit damaged. They're dirty. They're defective. They're worn. Now, these three shoes represent the three people in that parable that passed that injured man on the road. That first one was probably wealthy, and if that person really bothered, he could have probably gotten some help for him and paid for it. But you see, that was beneath him because, he was wealthy. It's not my job. The second person was probably a workman, and he had a job to do in town. He had an appointment to keep, and he didn't have the time, even though he had the strength to probably lift up that man and at least get him into a comfortable position instead of just being half dead on the side of the road. But no, he had, promises, commitments to keep. The third shoe represents the Samaritan. Kind of damaged, dirty, you kind of think of your homeless person that may be recovering an alcoholic or drug addict. The thing is, that person took the time to help. How do you judge goodness? By how much it costs? How well it's made? Or by what it does? We are all made in God's image. These sneakers serve as an image of Christ stopping and helping a stranger. What's important is not to prejudge someone based upon what they've been through, based upon what they look like, but what that person does. Think about it. Pray about it. And see what you can do for your neighbor today.